It's the stories of the Sharitas, of the Olivias, of the Krishandas, all those stories that if there had not been mentors and people there who stepped up for them, to give them hope, to know you can do this, introduce them to another option beside what they might have been used to.
This is Hourglass, the podcast for United Way of King County in Seattle. Coming up, a conversation with Hazel Cameron of Seattle-based mentoring program 4C Coalition, who was recently awarded for her service to communities across generations. United Way of King County proudly supports 4C Coalition and honors Cameron for the time she spends making a difference in the lives of young people through mentoring. We'll also hear about United Way-supported Vashon Maury Community Food Bank and an upcoming United Way Happy Hour and Hellos event. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for tuning in. United Way of King County prides itself on implementing prevention programs, and we acknowledge that it's not always easy convincing people of the benefits of such work. After all, few people consider the number of cavities they didn't get, the number of accidents they avoided, or the pounds they didn't gain. But folks need to take a hard look at the benefits of prevention, and when it comes to young people, that means matching them with mentors trained to help children navigate both the challenges of life and youth emotional development. Mentors help kids solve problems and build confidence and self-esteem. Just having an adult that cares, listens, and is willing to spend time with you can help you make good decisions, avoid dangers, and turn away from troublesome paths before it's too late. While we in King County grapple with recent school shootings, accounts of gang violence, and other issues that make us concerned for our youth, we should consider this. According to Boston-based mentoring.org, at least 1 out of every 3 young people will grow up without a mentor, and 67% of those under 21 say they remember a time when they needed a mentor and didn't have one. But for those who do have mentors, 92% are more likely to volunteer in their communities, 85% say that their relationship with their mentor helped them with issues related to their education, 58% say their mentor supported their mental health, and 60% of those who are now 40 years old are still drawing advice from their childhood mentors. That's why we need to support more mentoring programs like 4C Coalition of Seattle, which was founded in 1999 to address concerns that too many students were dropping out of school, committing school violence, or incurring suspension. 4C stands for Clergy, Community, and Children Youth Coalition, and its founding culminated efforts among clergy and community members to foster prevention. There's no telling how many lives 4C has saved or dangers it's helped kids avoid, but since its founding, 4C has served more than 2,000 youth through one-on-one mentoring, group mentoring, and tutoring. 4C also recruits and trains adults from local communities to help students set and fulfill their educational and vocational goals. And 4C's work has not gone unnoticed. 4C co-founder and director Hazel Cameron has been awarded the Sound Generation's 2024 Inspire Positive Aging Award in its Intergenerational Impact category. Sound Generations is a Seattle-based nonprofit that since 1967 has helped older adults live productive lives while celebrating seniors who inspire others through their contributions. Previous winners of the Sound Generations Award include painters, caregivers, songwriters, police officers, and teachers. Cameron was chosen from a pool of 30 nominees, and she will be honored in Sound Generations Luncheon Awards ceremony at Bellevue's Meidenbauer Center on June 12th at 11 a.m. It is a fitting tribute for Cameron, a Washington, D.C. resident who moved to the Seattle area years ago, and along with her husband Don, has been an inspiration for many who extol the benefits of mentoring. We sat down with Hazel Cameron on the eve of her Sound Generations Award ceremony, and she says that her lifelong career of working with youth might not have happened had she not been so squeamish as a child.
My first job was a candy striper at Walter Reed Army Hospital.
Oh, wow.
I was 12 years old. And my mother put together the $50 to get my little uniform and all this. And I would go there every week and weekend and help out. And it taught me a lot about working in that type of hospital setting, because I thought I wanted to go to medical school, but no, I did such a great job that they asked me to stand in on a little surgery. They were doing a spinal tap. They covered me up with all the heavyweight gear that they do, and I'm standing there and I passed out. Fainted. And I realized no blood, and seeing bodies change and shake was not my calling. But my calling was working in the community and working with young people.
Can you just talk to me about what's it like to win this award?
You know, I was completely taken aback. I was surprised. My son, who works for Mary's Place, actually nominated me. And I had no idea. He kept it, and his wife and Dawn, everyone kept it a big secret. So when I did get the nomination, I figured I would, one of 30, 40 people being nominated. I said, oh, that's nice to be nominated for something like this, the Positive Aging Award, and how, it inspires people to continue the journey of life and so forth. So I was very surprised. It was unexpected.
How much had you heard about the award prior?
I had not.
Oh, okay.
I had not heard anything about the award prior, and learned more as I've, of course, it was nominated about Sound Generations, and everyone's been very kind, the people that I've been speaking with from Sound Generations.
Okay.
I think it's really powerful because, we've lived this life and this journey and have embraced challenges, successes. And when I think about my life, even as I've written my little 2-minute speech, it gave me time to step back and think about, all the different aspects of how I've been able to get here and continue to do the work I do, I think, which has been my life work.
Now, we talked about the origins of 4C Coalition. I want to know if you can tell me when and why you decided to get involved.
Wow, at the time, I think I have shared that I worked for Juvenile Rehabilitation Administration, was in the community. And, I've always had this passion. This has been my life work, and this award is helping me to think more about going back to when did I first start loving community and working with community. Well, we moved here, I wasn't working for a while. My children were young, and I actually was looking for a job and trying to figure out what to do. And so I ended up working actually initially for a company, Precor, and I worked for Precor for about almost 2 years. I had a lot of fun, working there was, just not intense, just go to work and manage the office and manage staff and get on the equipment and had a good time there. And met some great people. But then I decided to start looking around for something in social services. Met with Lau Kwazim. Okay. Lau, he used to be the director for DSHS in Olympia, African American. And Lyle, recommended me to Juvenile Rehabilitation Administration. And so I went through my interview process and did not want to work in an institution, that's for sure.
Great.
And my first interview, when I went there, they took me on a tour of Echo Glen Children's Center. And I said, I don't know if I can work in a place where I'm locking kids up. It's really hard to lock young kids up. And we went into a cottage where they had little boys, they were in school, and their shoes, their little sneakers were under the bed, and it looked like my kids' sneakers. I'm like, oh no, I can't work here. So initially I told them I like to work with girls, and at Echo Glen if I end up being hired. But of course, as things happen, they ended up hiring me, but also saying, we're going to put you in click-attack cottages. That's a cottage for sex offenders and those little boys. It was the hardest job of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, working with little sex offenders. I just said, how? How does this happen to our children? But most of the kids that were in there from age, the youngest was 11 years old. They had been sexually abused in some form or other. And
I remember when I was at the Globe in Boston, I was asked to speak to kids at a juvenile detention center. They were all young boys, 14 to 17, all races. And I remember the person who brought me there was kind of a program to motivate young people. He said, now, you cannot ask any of them their names or why they're here, because some of them are parts of gangs, and they know other people who are parts of gangs.
Right.
And I said, okay. And I said, let me ask you, what are they in here for? And he said, every young boy that you'll see, is about 40 of them in this room. He said, everyone in here is either in here for rape or murder. Rape or murder.
Yeah.
And I walk into the room and they all just had just regular innocent faces.
Right.
You wouldn't be able to tell them from anybody from, out on the street, someone in the library, someone in the classroom, someone, looking for a summer job.
Right.
And it just the human side to that just has always stuck with me.
Yeah, it's true. You can't believe it. And it took me a long time even reading the files and the history of these kids and the offense that they did to really put it together and say, how did this kid, they're like normal kids, doing their normal activities, going to school and smart, really smart. The one thing I learned, a lot of them are very manipulative. They're manipulators. They know how to look at a situation and navigate it, and they were taught that by someone from observing. And so it was quite an experience working with those boys and learning from staff who have been working with sex offenders for years that, they're going to lie. They're going to say, I didn't do it. But you have to sit down and look at them and try to get them to be honest. So it was a challenge for me. I worked in that unit called Click Attack for a year. And smart kids, brilliant kids. Some of the smartest kids I think I'd ever met were in there, and all nationalities of boys. And eventually I was moved over to a girls' unit, which was for substance abusing girls and boys. That's another whole avenue of how they're manipulators too, but they're substance abusers. And so, it was hard working at Echo Glen because, every day you're locking kids up and in their room, and, you're dealing with kids who are trying to commit suicide and stripping their rooms. And I've seen kids being taken down by big guys, like your size. These little kids who are acting out, and their guards bust through the cottage and because they're acting out or fighting, take them down. And, I was shaken the first time I saw it, and I had to write the incident report up. And I'm trying to write the incident report while these guards have got this kid on the floor, and they're kicking and screaming and putting him in the quiet room. And, it was this very traumatic place for the kids, much less for someone like me. But I learned a lot, and I learned how to speak up for myself because their staff were also very controlling of new people coming in.
Oh, wow.
And especially a black woman, as mostly all. And I saw a lot of racism and different kids, Asian, blacks, treated one way compared to other kids. And I confronted it, with staff and, until most of those staff became very close friends of mine over the years because I confronted what I was observing. But it was a lot of gang activity. I remember once we were sitting in the living room area of the unit. There are 20 kids in this unit. And they're quiet. Kids are on the floor playing games. Some were doing homework, and the staff are around. Maybe 4 staff are on call on at the time. And you learn to pick up when something's happening, when kids get really quiet and they're beginning to do gang signs and they're speaking their own language. And then one of the older staff would come in who've been there for a while and say, to your rooms, blow the whistle, and everyone jumps up. And I was like, what happened? And they said a fight was getting ready to break out, and you would have never known it.
Wow.
But between the rival gangs. Wow. And so you had to be very observant and watchful of the quietness and the way they navigated. And they're very smart. When I went in, they had a new program, and we had a manual about that thick of rules and guidelines and policies. The kids knew all the rules, all the guidelines, all the policies before staff, because we were talking to them about it. They had to learn when you'd have to go in your room, what you could do to earn privileges, and just school responsibilities. And they knew all the rules and guidelines quick.
Wow.
Even before the staff did. So it was quite an experience working in an institution with young kids. And most of these kids are from Seattle,
Really?
Yeah, most of the kids. And, now Echo Glen, Green Hill. There used to be several juvenile institutions there, probably only 2 or 3 right now.
So now it seems like the work that you're doing is to prevent them from going there. Yeah. And when did the light go on that you needed to be a part of the prevention phase of this?
Right away. When I was there after 6 months. Some probation counselors came up and did a presentation about mentoring. And so there were probation counselors, some substance abuse officers and staff, and they came down from Region 4, which used to be at Fairview. I don't know if you remember Fairview. They had a regional office. There were regional offices all around Seattle and the state for kids who were incarcerated. They were on parole, probation. Parole meaning they committed a felony crime. And they talked about mentoring. They said, we're trying to start a mentoring program. We don't have any money, we don't have any staff, but we're coming in, we're doing it after hours, and so we're looking for kids. So I was one of the first people to sign a kid and refer a kid who was getting out of the institution to the community to mentoring. So that's my first knowledge of there being mentoring for that population, which is a prevention. So if they get out of the institution, having that adult support, if it wasn't a parent or someone else or whatever the dynamics of that family might be, I saw it as a positive.
Mm-hmm. Don Cameron called Hazel a leader and absolute visionary, and credits her with launching such innovative programs as YMPC, or Youth, Mentor, Parent, and Community. The program offered a holistic approach to mentoring that involved the entire community, and Don says it has been replicated in other mentorship programs. Don added that through Hazel, 4C was one of the first organizations to implement a group mentoring model, in part because of the scarcity of one-on-one mentors. Through mentoring, Hazel Cameron has helped many young adults navigate their ways out of troubled environments and onto paths of self-reliance and self-care. Hazel speaks fondly of 3 such young people, who we will mention by their first names, Sharita, Cassandra, and Olivia.
I met Sharita when she was at Echo Glen.
Oh.
And we connected her with a mentor who was from Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church. Let me even go back a little further. Reverend Manaway from Tabernacle, he was one of the first pastors to step up and say to his congregants, I want you to get involved in this. Okay. So we signed up 10 mentors who stayed with the 4C and stayed involved in mentoring for probably over 8 or 9 years. Okay. Sharita was matched with an elderly woman who, from the bat, initially she didn't like. She said, I don't like her. She reminds me of my grandmother. Get her out of my life. But Sherry Gray did not give up on Sharita. She continued to reach out to her when she came out of the institution. The way the program at Echo Glen worked, kids 6 months before they left the institution, we would match them with a mentor. And then the mentor would connect and follow them into the community and mentor them for a year or more. And Sharita was in for shoplifting. She had a history of shoplifting. One day she was shoplifting at Bellevue Square. This was back in the days of the pagers. And she said, and Sherry was taking her to church and talking positive to her. But she was shoplifting one day, and she was about to get caught. The police saw her, and so she was dropped whatever she was picking up and was running through the mall. And her pager went off, and she looked down, and it was Cherry Gray. And she said it freaked her out. My mentor's calling me. She's trying to get me to go to church, and why? And she said, I'm running down the mall, and see my mentor calls me, and I ran. I got out and jumped in my car, and we got away. And she said, as soon as I got out, I called my mentor and said, thank you for calling me. Thank you. And it was like something clicked for her at that moment. She got involved in the church, tried to change her life. It took years and time for her to change, but now she's an amazing young woman. She's doing well, is working for 4C. She fell in love with her mentor. Those are some of the highlights. Seeing people like Sharita, seeing people like Krishanda. Krishanda was locked up first offense at what was the name of the institution down in Ocean Shores.
Okay.
And when she was, that's when she was locked up, and we took Elena down to Ocean Shores, did the introduction while she was still incarcerated, and they've been together since.
Wow.
Over 20 years. And so it gives me hope when I think about her. When I think about the young lady I mentored, Olivia, who was a runaway, who ran away, ended up living on the streets with older men who had her selling drugs. And, I brought her into my life when I was approached and said, this young lady needs a mentor. Her counselor, therapist said she doesn't need mental health therapy, she needs a mentor. And he was right. So she's a very smart, bright young woman. So I brought her into my office. I started having her help me in the office, doing clerical work. She started working for me. I take her to events, Washington State Mentors, other events that were going on. She always carried herself well. And now she's married and has 3 children and is doing quite well. So it's the stories of the Sharitas, of the Olivias, of the Krishandas, all those stories that if there had not been mentors and people there who stepped up for them, to give them hope, to know you can do this, introduce them to another option beside what they might have been used to.
So what gives you hope, Hazel, in doing all this work? What keeps you?
Community. It gives me hope that, people, each other, I know even with my life, my father died when I was 11. My mother was 39 years old. There was 8 of us. The youngest was 3. The oldest was 14. She had she knew that she needed community to be in our lives. She had 6 girls and 2 boys. So she had us involved in the church. She had us involved in, summer activities, Bible studies, and other programs in the community in D.C. And along with that came people who would come to the house and sit around and talk with us because my dad wasn't there. A lot of women and men who were there and mentors, so to speak, but they weren't structured like we see today, but they were people that were there for us growing up in my life. And I think if it hadn't been for her having the sense to bring people to help us and to help her, who knows what could have happened, We had our challenges, of course, but throughout our adolescence and high school years, we all did pretty well.
Oh, great. 4C is a member of the United Way-supported Racial Equity Coalition, a group of 14 organizations of color that launched after-school programs to immerse students in lessons rooted in their own races, ethnicities, and heritage. As part of its Racial Equity Coalition work, 4C offers wellness mentoring circles that bring youth and mentors together in a structured community-building curriculum. For more information about 4C Coalition, log on to the4ccoalition.org. United Way of King County partners with local organizations to help combat food insecurity. Those organizations include Vashon Maury Community Food Bank, which works to ensure all residents of Vashon and Maury Islands have basic needs such as food, clothing, housing, and health care. The food bank offers weekly in-person shopping, and all island residents are welcome to use the food bank. No ID is required. For more information, log on to vashonfoodbank.org. And be sure to join us for happy hour and hellos at Columbia Center's Skyview Observatory on June 13th at 5:30 p.m. Come up to the 73rd floor of Seattle's tallest tower and learn about United Way's work in areas such as housing and food insecurity. For more information, log on to uwkc.org/events. At United Way of King County, we are working side by side with communities to build an equitable future for everyone. Hourglass United Way is a podcast that highlights how we and our partners spend time making a difference in our communities. Our work is made possible by the generous donations from people like you. Please send comments and suggestions about our podcast to hourglassunitedway@gmail.com. To learn more about our work or to support United Way, log on to uwkc.org. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for listening. Until next time.